Hey Becky, I love those pointy red boots. Good morning everyone. What a wonderful day it is today, isn't it?
Absolutely.
I'm Reverend Cece Coltrane and I'm delighted to welcome you all to Center for Spiritual Living Greater Dayton this morning. If this is your first time here with us, thank you for sharing your morning. We would very much appreciate it if you would fill out that little tear-off strip that's on your bulletin so that we can, all we want to do is be able to send you a thank you for being here. We won't abuse or mess with your email. We will send you our Wednesday spiritual pick-me-up. You can unsubscribe if you don't like it, but I hope you will. It's just a little tiny midweek, hey, think about this differently kind of thing. We'd like to especially welcome you this morning. Stephanie Stewart will be giving our reading and invocation this morning, and our vigil holder is Judy Nossmacher. Stephanie and Lenza, Stephanie and Lenza will be, Lenza Smith will offer our interfaith candle lighting, which we do each Sunday to remind ourselves of the many, many sources of wisdom that are available to us from all the world's spiritual traditions. This morning, the kids ages 5 through 10 are with Mark Fowler and Ton Singh, and the teens and tweens are with Jen Brust. So we will invite you to go find your facilitator for this morning. And let's just take a moment and, first of all, just admire these beautiful kids. Let's say a brief blessing for them and for us. What I know in this moment is that God is here in the presence of and as these beautiful kids who are shining so brightly, these children who simply are all that they are, all that they came here to be. They bless us with their presence. And so we simply know for them that today is a day of wonder, of joy, of love, and of dreams. We say thank you for their presence and for all that goes on in the youth church today. And we just simply let this be so, knowing it's already done. And so it is. Thank you guys. Have a great day back there.
Have fun. We love you.
What a beautiful, I love that tie-dye shirt, man. We got some beautiful dressers here today. So now we get to hear a song. Is this Lieutenant Dan singing this?
Yeah, he is.
Lieutenant Dan is going to do the main vocals on this. It's called The Smallest Act of Kindness.
We light the first candle in honor of Native American religious traditions. O great Creator, I come before you in a humble manner and offer you this sacred pipe. With tears in my eyes and an ancient song from my heart, I pray. I pray for my relations in nature, all those who walk, crawl, fly, and swim, seen and unseen, to the good spirits that exist in every part of creation. We light the second candle in honor of Buddhism, a mind unruffled by the vagaries of fortune, from sorrow freed, from defilements cleansed, from fear liberated. This is the greatest blessing. We light the third candle in honor of the Sufi tradition. Your task is not to seek for love, but merely to seek and find all the barriers within yourself that you have built against it. We light the fourth candle in honor of Christianity. We are the children of light and love, the children of God. As such, we must have his qualities and his attributes of love, peace, and kindness towards all. We light the fifth candle in honor of Hinduism. Try not to change the world. You will fail. Try to love the world. Lo, the world is changed forever. We light the sixth candle in honor of Judaism. God is the mystery to which our lives is the answer. We light the final candle in honor of Taoism. Kindness in words creates confidence. Kindness in thinking creates profoundness. Kindness in giving creates love. Today's reading comes from our founder, Ernest Holmes, and his book, Living the Science of Mind. Our divine inheritance is self-sufficiency, perfection, peace, wholeness, and this must include abundance, self-expression, accomplishment, and happiness. The nature of God is wholeness. The nature of wholeness is happiness. The nature of happiness is peace. The nature of peace is harmony. And the nature of harmony is joy. So whichever way we turn the proposition, we are compelled to understand that the nature of reality, the nature of God, is perfect. Therefore, the will of God, which can never be divorced from God's nature, must always be a will toward our wholeness, peace, poise, power, and self-expression. So if you'll take this into silent contemplation with me for a few moments. And so centered here in this place of peace and power and love, I recognize, embrace, and celebrate our wholeness. I recognize and celebrate the wholeness of this service as we all come together today, individual expressions of the one. And I know that everything that happens today is exactly as it should be. That we are all divided by our most divine nature. And so I simply say thank you. I raise up this service and celebration in all who are in attendance. It is as it should be. It is divine. It is perfection. And I am grateful. And so it is.
One of the band super glued my microphone. I swear it. Was that you, Kenny?
No. Give me 2 weeks. I take.
Oh dear, what have I brought upon myself? So our subject today is doing God's will. Woohoo, boy, I'm telling you. Being raised in the Judeo-Christian tradition, most of us have some baggage around that one, don't we? We've been exposed to some pretty scary ideas about God's will. I have, anyway. One that seems to crop up every time someone dies. You know, if someone will inevitably say, well, it was God's will that that person died of an overdose or in a freak accident, or when a child dies, or when there's a huge natural disaster, well, it must have been God's will. That's the definition of God that's been used for centuries to keep people in fear and dependency. The Old Testament God that wreaks vengeance unto the here's the quote, on the children and on the grandchildren's children to the third and fourth generations, is what God was supposed to have said to Moses in Exodus. And that defines God as a capricious being with a nasty mean streak. And, you know, that God would will some people to die cruelly while others live to a ripe old age. That's not the God I believe in. That's not the God I understand. The God I believe in is the one I see when I look around. When I see, that's the God that I see expressed in the solar system, where everything is held in such a position precisely at the distance away from the sun, a chance of one in millions and millions and millions that Earth would be right in the position where life could flourish. I mean, things like that, they just blow me away. The divine intelligence that continues to create the universe as it expands, and the divine creativity that sparked this amazing process called evolution on this planet, and that which is shown by the love and the recognition that babies have for each other. Have you ever noticed that babies just naturally gravitate towards each other, no matter who they are? They don't have any filters for their love. They simply are love. That's the God I believe in. It's that pure and sweet and untainted love. The God I believe in is the one that shows up as our growing awareness and acceptance of each other for our differences. We're looking at each other in our diversity and saying, this is beautiful. And that's growing. It's the God I see in acts of kindness that far surpass and are far more numerous than their opposite. It's the God that I see expressed through all creation. The God I believe in is expressed through diversity and through all forms of life, and even through the inanimate objects, and through insects, and even mosquitoes, and stardust, and cockroaches even, and birds and bees and flowers and trees, and in the evolving understanding that we have of our own consciousness. I think we are at a place in evolution where we can begin to understand the divine in a much bigger way than we ever have before, and begin to let go of those old ideas of fear and judgment and capriciousness. We're the first generation to have seen our planet from space, to begin to understand a little bit about our neighborhood here. And we're the first generation to have ever seen photographs of nebulae and galaxies and deep space. We've all seen those photos from the Hubble telescope, right? They're incredible. They're incredible. We're the first generation to be able to sort of have that picture in our minds and understand the amazing nature of our universe. We're the first generation to understand the amazing beauty and diversity of our oceans, and to understand that when our oceans warm up, the coral reefs die, and the coral reefs are important. We understand that now. They're living beings that are important not only to the coasts, but to the people who live on the coasts. We're the first generation to understand how all of our planetary systems work together, how our weather happens, how climate change happens, how when we do certain things to excess, we mess with that balance, We're the parents of the first generation to widely understand and know that they can change their minds. We had to learn it, but kids today seem to know it. They seem to know that they can change their consciousness by changing the way they think and the way they believe. See, the God I believe in is a wholeness, a unity, a divine life, and a divine intelligence whose will, if that's even an appropriate word, whose will must be like its character, because it's a wholeness. And I think we humans are evolving to sense more and more and more about that than ever before, that there is an integrity in creation that is God, that is the very nature of God. So the will of the divine has to be expressed as the nature of the divine. And the nature of the divine is expressed as the will of the divine. And the nature of the divine is freedom, right? It must be. Because we are all free to be able to choose. We may not believe this at first, but we've learned it, to choose how we experience life through the way we think and through the way we act and through our beliefs. The nature of the divine is wholeness. Because if it wasn't, we wouldn't still be here. Once you start to divide something and pit parts of it against itself, then it starts to crumble. The nature of the divine is wisdom and limitlessness and freedom. All that seems pretty obvious to me. Our founder, Ernest Holmes, wrote, the nature of God is, she's already read this. The nature of God is wholeness. The nature of wholeness is happiness. The nature of happiness is peace. The nature of peace is harmony. The nature of harmony is joy. So we are compelled to understand that the nature of God, and therefore the will of God, must be towards our wholeness, our peace, our poise, power, and self-expression. If that's the nature of God, and if we are, as I think we can only be, its expressions, in the beginning was God and nothing else, and out of God sprang all of us and all of creation. So we're of it, we're from it, we're by it, we're through it. If we are its expressions, And what the mystics have told us for thousands of years is true. Our real nature is wholeness and peace and power and poise and joy. That is our real nature. And intelligence and wisdom and freedom and equanimity. The equanimity of the divine itself. Then why does it seem that so often we're experiencing something else? I think in part it's because we don't really believe that we are that. I think it's because we don't really understand that. And we're not little automated wind-up toys of God. We're not little automated pieces of the divine. We're conscious, fully formed beings who are at freedom. We are at choice in any moment as to how we want to live and what we want to believe. We haven't grown up learning that, though. We've grown up learning that our beliefs are sort of just there, even though we've sort of adopted them from our parents or our culture or our teachers. No one ever told me that it was possible to change how I believed. It happened over time and I was unconscious of it, and then when I became involved here, I started to get conscious of how it is that my beliefs get formed and learned that I could consciously change them. We are at freedom in that regard, and we get to choose how we live based on what we believe. So if we believe in an angry, wrathful God or a capricious God, then we believe, sort of in a God that's outside of love somehow. It's not loving in my book to sentence an infant born in a foreign country where they've never heard of Jesus to damnation just because that's where the child is born. That isn't anything God said, by the way. That's something that some human being said about God. But when we choose to see things outside of love in God, then we experience things that are outside of love. It's that simple. But if we believe that others somehow are not manifestations of God, or that we are not a manifestation of God, then we experience ourselves as not enough, as fallen or sinful or some other less than positive word. So when we choose to believe in a different kind of God, when we choose to believe in a divine spirit or a life or intelligence that lives through us and expresses itself as us, how can we not experience a different kind of life? How can we not? When we choose to see the divine nature as our nature and the divine will as our will, we begin to understand that God's will for us really is joy. It really is peace. It really is poise and prosperity and happiness. But changing our minds, our beliefs about such a deeply embedded idea, one that we've picked up from the culture around us, doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't. It takes some time and some effort. But what speeds it along, at least for me, is asking if God's will is my will and God's nature is my nature, how do I live in integrity with what I say I believe? How am I living in integrity with what I believe God's will to be? What speeds it up is grabbing that little tiny seed of faith in a new idea of God, a new idea of the universe, a God that is love and joy and freedom and power, and then acting on it. Acting on it. Some wise guy once said, faith without works is dead, right? And so when we begin to act as if we have the same nature as the divine, our lives start to change and our faith starts to grow. And we have to begin, of course, right where we are. We can't begin anywhere else. We have to start right where we are. When we find ourselves doing something that is outside that definition of the will of God as joy and good and peace and poise and prosperity, when we find ourselves doing something outside of that, we can say, ooh, I'm out of alignment here, right? I'm out of alignment. When we're beating ourselves up for not being enough, or we're looking at someone else and saying, they're the other. We can say, oh, we're not in alignment. I'm not in alignment in this moment. I need to stop and take a moment and realign with what I believe the nature of spirit to be. Ernest Holmes once said that God's will for us is whatever brings us more life, more abundance, more joy, more freedom, more any of that stuff, so long as it does not impinge on any other being's right to the same. Because we're all part of this unity. And so I can't do something that takes away your right to be free and joyful and prosperous. I think that might have been misinterpreted for a while as I can do anything I want and I can have anything I want and I can be anything I want, period. All that is true, but we have to remember the second half of that sentence. We must also account for that second half. We have to ensure that what we want to be and do and have doesn't take away somebody else's opportunity to do and be and have. And that requires wisdom, doesn't it? It requires wisdom. It requires that we think, that we're conscious of what happens when we get what we want. How do we get it? Through what means? How do we live in a complex world where our minds and our eyes and our hearts have to be open to the rest of life? That's where we are right now, is, we're coming out of this shell of this is only about my life to realize this is about the life, the one life that we're all part of. We're opening up to the whole world and to what's going on out there and to the consequences of what we do. Here in the U.S. we have more wealth held in private hands than any other country. Unfortunately, according to many sources, including Fortune magazine, which I don't think is far left, but anyway, we have the largest disparity between rich and poor in any developed country in the West. 48% of people in this country live at or near the poverty line. That's almost half of us, right? Something's wrong here, folks. Something is wrong. So those of us who have the peace and freedom and joy and ability to be, to meet our needs, we have to stop and think about those who don't, who can't. Because when you don't have enough to feed your children and pay your rent, it kind of puts a crimp in your freedom. It puts a damper on your ability to be filled with joy. If the disparity is going to be reduced or removed, it'll be because of what we do, how we act, what actions we take individually and collectively. How do we shop? How do we spend our money? It will be because we get involved in the lives of our fellow beings in the world. Not just that we stay, I don't know about you, but I spend way too much time behind my screen with my telephone or my tablet or my laptop, and not enough time being involved in the lives of people around me. And that's how we're going to change this. We're going to change it by becoming aware of what we're doing, what each of us is doing, how your neighbor is. How's your, the person that maybe lives in a different neighborhood than you, and how are they getting along? Do people have what they need? Once we start to become aware of this, we'll start to take action to stand up for what we believe in. Stand up for the principles that we believe make up the divine will. Those of us who get this idea that the divine will is the same for everybody, every human being, every being, will stand up and stand for that. For economic justice, for racial justice, for gender justice, for sexual orientation justice, for justice for all life. And it'll be because of what we do in our individual lives. If I buy this, what is it supporting? We have to become aware of those things. We have to say, if I do this, am I supporting freedom or inequality? how do my votes support what I believe in? How do my buying decisions support what I believe in? How do my travel decisions, everything we do, how does it support what I believe in? Am I allowing God's will to be expressed by means of me in every way possible? I think that's the question. And once we start to become involved in that larger life, the life around us, and we start to stand up for the values we believe in, we become love in action. It's that simple. We become love in action. Everything we do is an act of love. And so I've been looking and looking and looking for some organization to align myself with that stands for things, not against them, not against anything, that stands for the same principles that I believe in and that I think express God's will. And I may have found that last week I went to a training for the Ohio branch of what's called the Poor People's Campaign. And the Poor People's Campaign is a revival of Dr. Martin Luther King's Poor People's Campaign, which he started in 1967, not too long before he was assassinated. He said, "We have moved into the era where we're called upon to raise certain basic questions about the whole society." And if they were moving into it, we're smack in the middle of it. We are smack in the middle of it. How can we, when I got those statistics on economics, I just said, how did we get here? Where 80% of the population shares 4% of the wealth, and the 20% at the top gets the other 96%. How did we get here? How did this happen? What's going on here? Well, the Poor People's Campaign is a movement for people across racial, economic, and religious lines, and its whole point is to revive the idea that all of God's people are meant to be living in joy and freedom and self-expression and enoughness and equality. And it's led by two amazing people, one of whom I consider to be, a modern Elijah, maybe. His name is Reverend Dr. William Barber II, and he's amazing. He's a prophet. He's an amazing guy. And his cohort is Reverend Dr. Liz Theoharis. We have a black man and a white woman, a northerner and a southerner. I think, lots of differences between the two, and they did that on purpose. They're both amazing spiritual leaders. So beginning on Mother's Day, the Poor People's Campaign will be doing 40 days of civil action to get some attention around this. And we actually start in Ohio, in Columbus, on May 14th. And so I left some information over at the Welcome Center, a statement of principles and a little sheet where you can actually join the Poor People's Campaign if you want to. What I'm hoping to do is get enough of us involved in this community that we can get them here for a training so that we can go out, hold coffee Mondays in downtown Dayton, whatever it is we do to become involved in the lives of our fellow human beings, to become involved in a way that informs us as to how to stand for what we really believe in. You can look for the Poor People's Campaign on Facebook or on the web also. It doesn't cost anything to join, and they will simply send you some amazing videos about what they're doing so far. Like I said, I really admire them because they stand for what I believe is God's will for all people. That we all have a fair shake and a decent life and a chance to be happy and joyous and express ourselves. In my mind, we've evolved to the point where our lives can begin to match our real nature. Where our lives can begin to match our real nature. We can exercise our highest will, which is the divine will within us for our lives and the lives around us, so that we create in our world a place of joy and freedom and self-expression and abundance and happiness for everybody. And I think each one of us can take a step forward and be a stand for love, no matter what we're doing. We can be a stand for love in our individual small actions, and we can be a stand for love collectively and say, wait a minute, let's talk about what's going on here. Let's see if we can't move this world a little bit more into the kind of place where life works for everyone, as our banner there says. Where life works for our children, all of them. Where life works no matter who you are or where you've come from. Where life works. So I invite you to join me. And right now I invite you to join me as we turn within and simply allow our awareness to settle into that place where the nature of the divine exists as us. That still place within us where there is peace, where there is harmony, where we can find joy no matter what the outside circumstances. This place within each one of us, which is where life flows into us in abundance. This fountain of living water, Jesus called it, that flows up from our very center into all that we are and into all that we do. And it is in this place that we remember that the Creator, no matter what name you call it, God, Spirit, the universe, intelligence, Great Spirit, delights in its creation, all of it. That love and that intelligence and that wisdom which caused it all to come into being delights in all the myriad of forms and types and species and colors and names and languages and costumes and all of it that have resulted from that initial spark. And that means that the Creator delights in me and in you. For we are part of it, we are of it, we are from it, we are the place it shows up in our world. And God takes great delight in each one of us. And what I know in this moment is that this community becomes more and more and more, day by day by day, more and more what it came here to be. A place where the will of the divine shows up as love, as mercy, as acceptance, as welcome, as joy and happiness and freedom and peace and power and poise and abundance and harmony. That is what we are here to do and to be. And I know that each person who is part of this center, his or her life starts to show up those same qualities in ways as yet unexpressed. Every day there is a little bit more wonder. Every day there is a little bit more compassion. Every day there is a little bit more joy and peace. And I know that each one of us keeps moving in this direction of understanding that we truly are of the nature of the divine, and the divine will is our will. And aligning ourselves, truing us up to that every single moment of every single day, so that we are the very presence of love, no matter what. And simply because I know the truth, this truth about us, I am grateful. I'm grateful for everyone who is part of this community and all that we do together and individually to nudge this world towards becoming a place of love for all, of peace for all, of justice and harmony and abundance for all. A place that works for everyone. And so in deep gratitude, I let go, I release these words into that infinite mind of the universe, that which always says yes, knowing it's already so. And we say together, and so it is.
Just a thread, a simple thread in this glorious web of life. We are all just drops within a stream flowing towards an ocean of light. We may forget where we come from. We may forget where we're going to. I might not see that you're a reflection of me, as much as I'm a reflection of you. I am just a seed, a blessed seed with eternity unfolding in me, and I pray that as I grow, I will reveal the love that illuminates my soul. When I remember where I come from, when I remember where I'm going to, then I will see that you're a reflection of me, as much as I'm a reflection of you. A simple prayer, may I become a reflection of the infinite one. This is my simple prayer. May I become a reflection of the infinite one. This is my simple prayer. May I become a reflection of the infinite one. This is my simple prayer. May I become a reflection of the infinite one.
Amen. And now we have an opportunity to contribute to this community and its work because we're part of this community. This is your community serving you in your transformation and together transforming our world. So let's affirm together. I know the activity of abundance in my life.
I know the activity of abundance in my life
And in this center.
and in this center.
I give and receive generously
I give and receive generously
from this everlasting flow of good.
from this everlasting flow of good.
And so it is.
And so it is.
I forgot something in the middle of all of that. And so I'll just ask you to keep in your thoughts this week the Columbus Center for Spiritual Living, our sister, literally our sister center. The minister is my sister. They're celebrating 10 years. I know, isn't that amazing? And also the Graham, North Carolina Center, which is celebrating 32 years this year. I had no idea, 32 years. So keep Graham and Columbus in your thoughts and prayers this week for just, blasting off into the future in an amazing way. I know Columbus is getting ready. If you are new or newish to the center and are interested in finding out more, next Sunday begins our Discover course, which is an hour after the service for 3 Sundays. It's not 3 consecutive Sundays. I'm sorry, my schedule's crazy. So it's a next Sunday, and then 2 weeks after that, and then 2 weeks after that. There is a sign-up sheet over on the bulletin board where you can find out a little bit more about the class. We'd love to have you. If you want to come, please sign up so I make sure I have everything that I need for that first day. In your bulletin is the fundraiser event guide for Cooking with God. Woo! This is our 8th annual fundraiser. It's always a good time. What we ask for you to do is to come up with an event that is fun and involves food. Now, it doesn't have to be fancy food. We do something almost every year that involves chocolate bars and chocolate tasting. You can go everything from chocolate bars to a 4-course gourmet meal. It's up to you, and up to you where and the date and how many people you host. And so just put your thinking caps on and come up with an event that is fun and involves some food. You can fill out this form that is included with that event guide and turn it into the office or put it in the green folder that is over there at the Welcome Center. Here's how it works. You choose the event, you host the event, you provide the food and the fun. People actually buy tickets to come to your event. Instead of an auction this year, we're trying to do it that way because keeping track of the auction has resulted in a logistics nightmare for our people. Oh, you guys were going to stand up and say something?
Well,
I'm just yakking away about it. Hey, let's welcome the 2 people, the women who put this thing together. Anne and Denise. I yield the microphone.
I'm so sorry.
That's okay. I'm a little hyper-caffeinated today.
And Clara does most of the work for us.
That's right. Kara does pretty much all of it.
But
Should we play jump rope or?
the main difference is here, how many of you have heard of Cooking with God before? And then how many of you have attended an event in the past? And how many of you have hosted an event in the past? So there's a lot of you who are familiar with this since we've done it 8 years. However, we're changing the bidding to tickets, and that means you do not have to worry about a bidding war. You don't have to worry about constantly looking to see if you've been outbid. So it is our largest fundraiser of the year. Our goal is to have 20 events and raise at least $5,000. And so all the information is there for you, but our main goal was to focus on the fact that we're changing to tickets. So it is going to change a bit. It's on a first-come, first-served basis with tickets. You can buy all the tickets to all the events that you want ahead of time on April 29th. That's the first day to buy tickets. And if you want to wait and buy tickets later, that's fine, but they may not be available.
And when are events due?
All the dates are on the back. So April 15th is when we want to make sure we submit all of our events. That way we can get the catalog ready and people can decide what they want to purchase or attend. And then the 29th of April is when you're allowed to buy tickets. And then May 20th is the last day to buy tickets on Sundays after the service. But you can still buy tickets in the office throughout the week from Clara. And then May 17th would be our first day to hold an event. And then November 18th would be the first or the last day to hold an event.
See, it's all in your bulletin. But go ahead. What were you going to say something? Okay, this is really, really fun. We have all kinds of creative events, and I've gone to a lot of them. And it's a great way to get to know people and, maybe people you didn't know or don't talk to as much at church. We had an event like Scott in Georgia. They have a boat, and we went out to a beach. So you can just imagine the beach and the wind blowing in your hair and the water. And yes, there is a beach in Dayton, Ohio.
Wow.
I know, isn't that wild? But actually, it's not really in Dayton, Ohio. It was like Buck Creek, is that right?
Yes.
Yeah. And he had a boat, so he pulled us around, and we did tubing and stuff, and it was really fun. But, if that's not your thing, Reverend Cece does a fabulous dinner. She's just the most wonderful cook ever. And it's all vegan food, and it's very creative, and she does Korean. Or, she's done Thai or Mexican, Chinese, and Jewish.
Yeah, trying to think what else.
Okay. If you don't like to cook, you can pair up with somebody who does like to cook. And, you don't have to have it at your house. You can have it here at the center or somewhere else. And we did one thing where there was a hike at, where was that hike?
Sugar Creek.
Is-
Sugar Creek.
No, there was a hike down like south and like.
Sugar Creek.
Sugar Creek, yes. I did that. And then there was food at dinner afterwards. So it's really fun. Sign up to do it. And even better yet, sign up and buy tickets.
Yes, you'll not regret it. It's lots of fun.
Oh, yeah. And also, I think Lewisteen had an event with salad and hypnosis. And I think if I'd gone to that event, I would now be eating salad instead of ice cream.
If you have any questions, we're available after the service.
That's
and
right.
Clara is available throughout the week.
That's right.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
I don't know, without caffeine and sugar, if you'd be as much fun, Ann. So, this coming Saturday is the March for Our Lives downtown at Courthouse Square. It's a rally in Dayton, but that's okay. We're still part of the March for Our Lives. There is the information in your bulletin about it. You can also check our Facebook page and join us as to there's information on where we're going to meet down at Courthouse Square, but please plan to join us. And you can gather here on March 21st at 6:30 to make a sign to carry if you want to do that. We're currently creating a set of name tags on lanyards for all of us here, so if you haven't already done so, please sign up. There are 2 clipboards over at the Welcome Center that say name tags. Sign up there, printing your name carefully so we don't misspell it because we can't read it. And we will make you a name tag. This is not only so we can get to know each other better and put faces with names and names with faces, but also it gives us a way to actually track who's not here. It's not so much who's here, but who's not here. If we see that the name tag hasn't been picked up for a couple weeks in a row, then we can reach out and find out what's going on in somebody's life, because sometimes people need assistance or they're ill or whatever and they need prayer and they don't let us know. So this is a way for us to stay in better on top of that a little better. So we'd really appreciate if you would sign up to get a name tag. There are a few more pieces of information in your bulletin about events that are coming up. You can take a look at on the back of your bulletin and on this insert. And if you have any questions, you can talk to me or Clara after the service, although she'll probably run out the door, which I wouldn't blame her a bit. There is a lot of information in there. If there's something that you would like prayer for after the service, please just walk up to one of the people in the teal or white stoles and ask for prayer. They'll find a secluded corner and pray with you. It's our practitioner's gift to you on Sunday. They are very well trained and experienced in being able to see the spiritual truth sometimes when we can't, because we're right in the middle of it. So take advantage of that gift to you. You can also put a written prayer request in the prayer chest, or you can call our prayer line, which is on the back of your bulletin. So it's now time to wrap up here. I just want to remind you at the end of the service to make sure you get a lot of hugs from the people around you. Hugs are great ways to bridge gaps between people, and they're also very good for us. They're very good for our health, so mental, spiritual, and physical. So get lots of hugs before you go. Introduce yourself to somebody you don't know. And I just want to say thanks for being here. It's been a lovely, lovely morning with you. I thank you who are attending, our ushers and greeters, our practitioners, the welcome team, the guys with the kids in the back, the amazing Higher Mind Band. Yay! And of course, Spirit for getting us all out of bed this morning.
Yeah, really.
So let's stand up and do our closing affirmation, our closing song, We Are One.
Help me do that. Oh, yeah.
Today I realize the divine will for my life.
Today I realize the divine will for my life.
Wholeness,
Wholeness,
happiness,
happiness,
abundance,
abundance,
peace,
peace,
self-expression,
self-expression,
and joy.
and joy.
I accept this as my will too,
I accept this as my will too,
and I create it in my world,
and I create it in my world,
and so it is.
and so it is.
Have a great week.